I'm Sherilyn Skolnicki, and this is Brilliant Balance, the show for working women who are ready to shine. Each week, I bring you ideas, inspiration, and insight on balance, business, and getting it all done gracefully. You ready? Let's be brilliant. This is episode 276. We are in part 4 of the Get What You Want series, talking about how to be more productive. So, hello, my friends. We're going to talk all things productivity today, and I hope that I can make this really, really simple for you. Because again, we're in this 4-part series because we took a minute to ask, what is it that you want, right? What is it that is on your mind? What do you want some help and support with this year? And week 1, we talked about how to, not surprisingly, live healthier and feel better. And then in week 2, we got into a conversation about money, specifically how to spend less, maybe unintentionally, so you could save more. And then this week, we are going to talk about productivity. And maybe it's because so much of the content that I've shared over the years sort of sits in this territory around making good use of your time and being mindful about where your time is going and getting things done and, handling the never inconsequential workload that is associated with being a woman, specifically often a working mom. Maybe that's why this comes up a lot. But I think if I'm being honest, it just comes up a lot in general because it's something that's really on the mind of this particular, audience. Like the people who are my listeners, being productive and getting things done is super important to them. Super important to you, that is. So I think the backdrop for this particular topic is the chronic state of affairs for so many of us, which is, I have too much to do and not enough time to do it. And if you have ever heard yourself saying that or saying some approximation of that, maybe just, God, I have so much to do, or I am so busy. How am I ever going to get all of this done? It's never ending. I never feel like I can take a break. There's never any room to breathe. Who is supposed to do all of this stuff? Like any of those phrases, if you sort of hear them coming out of your mouth or you're muttering them under your breath, then you are in the right place today, because this episode is really about my single best productivity tip. And rather than getting into like a multi-part series today where I'm going to talk about a lot of different ideas, I'm really going to hone in on one single idea because I want you to walk away implementing this. If your goal this year or in this season of life or in this chapter of life is to be more productive, then you're going to want to do this thing. And I think it's really important that we take just a beat to dig into, why does this matter? Why are we so focused on being more productive? And I think it's because something in us knows that if we get this list of stuff that we have to do done more efficiently, if we're able to just move through it, then on the other side of that, there is more time for ourselves. And ultimately, I think that's what we really want. I think we're just yearning for a little bit of time to do what we want to do, whatever that is. And something in us knows that probably the only way to get there, or at least we think the only way to get there, is to be more efficient or more productive with that really long list of must-dos. So with that premise today, and by the way, I do think there's other ways to get time for ourselves, but that is for another episode. So for today, I want to stay focused on what is this number one tip on being more productive. And it is simply, I have said this before, that what gets scheduled gets done. If I could give you one mantra, it would be what gets scheduled gets done. This concept it absolutely changed my life when I figured out that this was kind of the missing link. And I have watched it change the lives of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women as they've adopted this. So this concept, what gets scheduled gets done, is really anchored by what I refer to as the weekly plan, right? The weekly plan is simply stated, having forethought, having intention about where your time is going to go in the upcoming week. Now, you could make this a daily plan. You could try to go out longer than a week. I am in love with the week as the unit of time. And the idea for this really came from the insight that it was really easy for me to show up for my calendar-based appointments. It was easy for me to show up where I said I would. If I had a meeting on my calendar at 9 a.m. and it was in conference room 12B, back when I was working in a big office, I was going to be there at 9 a.m. or very close to it. If I had a doctor's appointment at 4 o'clock on a Tuesday, I was going to be pulling into that parking lot at 4 o'clock on Tuesday. If my child had a volleyball practice at 5 o'clock, I was going to be at volleyball practice at 5 o'clock with the child in the car, right? So there was something about the calendar appointment that was driving accountability to show up where I said I would. And candidly, often there is someone else involved in those calendar appointments, which adds another layer of accountability, right? It's one more reason to do what we said we were going to do, because not only would we be letting ourselves down, but we would actually be letting someone else down. So I'm aware of that insight. But that was the insight that kind of generated this idea. And I thought, okay, what if I turned my to-do list into calendar appointments? What if I gave every what a when? Every to-do list item, every task that I was going to tackle, what if I gave it a when? And I essentially scheduled it somewhere into my week. And what happened was magic. What happened was I started ticking off those tasks that had been languishing on my to-do list for a really long time in some cases. And I started very consistently moving things from my to-do list, crossing them off. They were done. And then that idea sort of started sitting at the centerpiece of one of our coaching programs. And I realized that not only did that work for me, but it was working for many, many, many other people. So again, I'm not going to get into all of the bells and whistles on this weekly plan system in today's episode. I just want to stay focused on this one idea of giving every what a when, right? What gets scheduled gets done. So this is what I think is important, is this tip, this idea works for most all things that you might want to get done. As examples, it works for habits and practices. Like if you are struggling to exercise, like we talked about a couple weeks ago in the Live Healthier and Feel Better episode, and you are trying to figure out why exercise is not happening, I want you to just pause and ask yourself, can I tell you when I am going to exercise today or tomorrow, right? If today has already passed. If you don't know when, then that is the first thing I would do, is apply this strategy and say, okay, I'm going to pick a time and say, I am exercising at 6 a.m. tomorrow, or I am exercising at 5 p.m. tonight. And even better, right, if you say what you're going to be doing. Hi, it's Cheryl Ann. Thanks for listening. Did you know that the ideas I share on this show are things I also can help you implement? If you want me in your corner helping you find more time for what fills you up, go to brilliant-balance.com/schedule and sign up for a free exploratory call. Give yourself this time. You'll be so glad you did. So habits and practices like exercise, like meditation, right? If you've said for 5 years, I really want to meditate and it's just not happening, is it scheduled into your day? Maybe you want to read more. Do you have a time of day that is scheduled for reading? Or is it just kind of left in the territory of, I'll get to it when I get to it. It'll happen if I can make it happen. And is that practice getting you what you want? Are you actually doing the thing? Okay, so habits and practices, this idea works for. It also works for projects. Things like, God, someday I need to purge that filing cabinet. I can barely shove another piece of paper in there, right? Or I really want to get that scrapbook made or that photo album made from, the Shutterfly book from the vacation that we took last year. Or or a work project. Like I have to write that big 80 slide presentation that I'm going to deliver at the conference. Projects are things that can tend to languish on our to-do list, particularly the first two examples I gave you that don't feel that urgent, like they don't actually have a deadline, purging a filing cabinet or, making a photo book. The presentation eventually is going to get scheduled because you're going to bump up against a deadline. It's my hypothesis. But those first two, they can stay on there for years. So scheduling the date and the time. Okay, I'm looking out at my calendar. I see a little window. I'm going to take 30 minutes to work on that filing cabinet on, Wednesday afternoon at 1:30 while I'm working from home. Or I'm going to do it on Saturday morning with my coffee and a podcast at 9 a.m. And I'm going to see how far I get in 30 minutes. These are like application instances of this idea. And this also works, this what gets scheduled gets done, works with what I refer to as episodic tasks. Okay, again, nerdy phrase here, but things like I have to do these fairly regularly, but I don't have to do them all the time, so they're easy to forget, like getting a mammogram once a year, right? Changing the air filters in your home or changing the batteries in the smoke detectors, right? Things that have to happen regularly, but episodically. There's like a lot of space in between the times you do them. So since it's not a daily habit or practice, it's too easy to just forget, right? It's without a reminder system. So scheduling it essentially becomes your reminder system for making it happen. Like you can sit down right now and open up your calendar and say, okay, how often am I changing those air filters? Truth alert here. I have no idea because that's something my husband does. But let's just say it's quarterly or it's every 6 months, you can put that on your calendar. Okay. If I have to schedule a mammogram once a year, I can put that reminder on my calendar to go in and do that thing. So whatever episodic tasks you might be forgetting, or, you realize like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's been 3 years since I've done that. Scheduling it can help you stick to the schedule. So why does this work? Why is this the one idea that I'm going to put in this episode? I think it works because it eliminates the swirl around what should I do next, right? If you double click on this idea of like, why am I not being very productive? I bet that if your day is anything like mine, in the absence of this system, a couple of hours can go by and you look back and go, I don't really know where they went. What was I even doing for those couple of hours, right? If there wasn't a specific thing you were telling yourself you would be doing, it's just too easy to get sucked into itty bitty tasks, anything from scrolling on your phone and not even remembering what you saw to getting sucked into little, tidying up tasks and just little itty bitty things that don't add up to anything. So because you're stuck in like, what should I do next? I don't even know, right? I'm kind of looking at my to-do list, trying to figure out what I should do and thinking, no, that looks very fun. And that can put us into either analysis paralysis, where we're trying to find the very best next thing to do and therefore doing nothing. Or we can get into decision fatigue. Like, I just don't want to decide anymore. I don't want to think about what to do next. And so we kind of we goof off, like we find places to kind of hide out and not get much done at all. So this process of scheduling essentially batches your scheduling decisions. If you're doing it as a weekly plan where you're sitting down and kind of figuring out a game plan for the week, you're taking all of that scheduling energy and you're batching it. You're doing it at one time. And then you're just in activate mode, right? For the rest of the week, you kind of have this dot to dot, that's how I think about it, to follow throughout the day. Remember when you were a kid and you had those picture books and they were dot to dots and you didn't have to draw a picture freehand. All you had to do was find the next number. And then when you connected those dots, by the end of the exercise, you had a picture. So in our day, if we have those dots to follow, this is the next task. Okay, I finished it. Where am I going next? Oh, over here. Okay, where am I going next? Over here. Before you know it, at the end of the day, you have this completed picture, right? It just takes the thinking out of that question of what am I going to do next, which can really lead to a lot of swirl. So again, if you are wrestling with productivity and constantly asking yourself, like, why am I not getting more done during the day? Why do I get to the end of the day and look back and think, oh, I didn't even do the things that I thought I might do today? There are tons more productivity concepts inside of our coaching programs, both the bigger programs and the smaller ones. So if you really want to up your game this year, you might want to schedule an exploratory call with me. You can do that just on the homepage of our website. It's brilliant-balance.com/schedule, or you'll see like a pop-up link. And if that is the place where I can roll my sleeves up and figure out the best way to help you. But if you want to start somewhere today, right now, this tip of what gets scheduled gets done, or giving every what a when, is a game changer. Okay. It absolutely will help you get the things on your list done more gracefully so that you have more time for yourself. All right. Next week, we are going to be back with part 4 of this series. So tune in if you are interested in how can I feel more connected to the people in my life, right? My spouse or my partner, my kids, my friends. I think after the pandemic chapter of life, we're kind of here for it all. We're feeling a little disconnected and frayed at the edges. And so next week, we're going to dig into how to feel more connected to the people in your life. And I'm excited to share that one with you. So that is all for today, my friends. Until next time, let's be brilliant.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.